Usually with robot mowers, the interesting part starts after setup. But with the Lymow One Plus, honestly, the experience starts the moment the box arrives. Because this thing is massive, and once we started unboxing it, the whole machine immediately gave off a very different impression compared to normal robot mowers. It feels dense, mechanical, and much more utility-focused. So today we are taking a proper look at how this mower actually feels to live with once you bring it into a real yard. Let's get started. The whole package feels more like outdoor equipment than a normal robot mower. It is heavy too, so during unboxing, you genuinely appreciate having another person nearby to help move everything around safely. And once you open the box, the presentation is actually pretty nice. Right at the top, you get the quick start guide, which gives you a fast overview before setup. Underneath that, you start uncovering the accessories one by one. Here is the power adapter, seems like for RTK. Then the RTK reference station, and there is the user manual and some extension cables for RTK and charging stations. Besides, you will find the ground stakes, the dedicated RTK stake, the wall mounting bracket, and the expansion bolts for a more permanent installation. Then, once we lift this section out, there it is. The Lymow One Plus sitting neatly alongside the charging station. And here is the power adapter for the charging station. Then, the moment you pull the mower out, the build quality immediately becomes one of the first things you notice. The aluminum frame gives it this rigid industrial feeling, and at around 78 pounds, it feels planted in a reassuring way. Not heavy just for the sake of it, but more like something designed to handle years of outdoor use without feeling fragile. And honestly, the tracked setup adds a lot to that first impression too. Most robot mowers still look very consumer-focused, but this immediately feels more purpose-built for rough terrain and larger properties. Then, around the front, you start noticing all the hardware packed into it. The AI vision cameras, ultrasonic sensors, and front lighting system are all positioned very visibly up front, and together they give the mower a much more advanced appearance without looking overly futuristic. We also liked the redesign of the charging station. The charging contacts now sit inside these front flap-style connectors instead of underneath the mower itself, which feels much cleaner long-term once dirt, wet grass, and mud become part of normal use. And another practical detail here is the removable battery. A lot of robotic mowers completely seal the battery inside the chassis, which can become annoying years later. But with the Lymow, the battery is removable and replaceable, which feels much more realistic from a long-term ownership perspective. And they even ship it disconnected for safety, so before first startup, you connect it manually and then you are ready to go. After that comes the RTK setup, and you either place the RTK pole in the ground, or mount it against a wall with clear sky visibility. Then, once power is connected, the mower basically prepares itself for mapping, and from there, you just manually drive the mower around the perimeter once, confirm the zone, and then the system builds the map from there. So instead of burying perimeter wires everywhere, you are basically teaching the mower your property directly through the app. And honestly, that whole process feels much more satisfying and modern once you do it yourself. Now, the setup is pretty straightforward, and thankfully, it feels very mature here. This uses RTK combined with VSLAM navigation, so you are basically getting satellite positioning mixed with visual mapping. And in use, that combination matters more than just reading the spec sheet. And what we liked is how customizable everything feels afterward. You can create up to 80 zones, which honestly sounds excessive at first, but once you start working with front yards, side sections, tree areas, narrow passages, and different grass conditions, you quickly understand why that flexibility matters. For example, you can assign different mowing heights or schedules to different areas. So maybe one section stays shorter and cleaner, while another area remains slightly taller for softer ground or rougher terrain. And the path planning itself looks very efficient. It moves with organized lines instead of random wandering, so you spend less time watching the mower repeat the same area unnecessarily. Also, the app experience feels practical instead of overloaded. We could quickly switch zones, adjust mowing parameters, check live positioning, and send the mower between areas manually. And because this also supports Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and 4G connectivity, communication stays pretty reliable even across larger properties. Now this is really where the Lymow starts separating itself from a lot of typical robotic mowers. The cutting system here feels genuinely aggressive in a good way. This uses dual rotary SK 5 blades with speeds up to 6,000 revolutions per minute, and paired with that 1,785 watt peak motor output, the mower has noticeably more authority when dealing with dense grass. And you feel that immediately once the grass gets thick or overgrown. Normally with smaller robot mowers, you hear the blades bog down slightly once the grass becomes heavy. Then, eventually you see uneven strips or missed patches. But the Lymow keeps blade speed surprisingly stable. And besides the raw power, the airflow system actually makes a visible difference too. Lymow calls it the cyclone airflow system. And basically what happens is the airflow lifts flattened grass upward before the blades cut it. And honestly, this becomes very noticeable in messy lawns where grass lays sideways from rain or foot traffic. Without airflow lift, many robot mowers glide right over those bent sections. This one catches much more of it during the first pass. Then there is the mulching behavior. Because the blades spin so fast, clippings become extremely fine, and during leaf season, it also mulches dry leaves surprisingly well. So instead of collecting piles afterward, the mower naturally breaks material down into tiny particles that settle back into the lawn. And over time, that really reduces cleanup work. Another thing we noticed is how stable the mower remains during difficult transitions. Even when crossing uneven patches or climbing slopes, the tracked system keeps the body balanced, so the mower rarely feels unsettled or twitchy. And yes, the 45-degree slope rating sounds huge on paper, but honestly, even before reaching extreme angles, you already notice how much more secure it feels compared to wheel drive competitors. Now, obstacle avoidance is one of those features where marketing often sounds better than reality. But here, the system actually behaves fairly naturally. The combination of AI vision and 5 ultrasonic sensors gives the mower decent environmental awareness. And because the software seems trained around real outdoor objects, the reactions feel more realistic. So when approaching toys, branches, decorations, or random yard clutter, it usually adjusts course early instead of bumping into everything first. And importantly, it does not feel overly sensitive either. Because some robot mowers become frustrating once they stop every few feet. But the Lymow still keeps momentum. It avoids objects while continuing the mowing session smoothly. Then there is the weather resistance. The IPX6 waterproofing becomes more useful than you initially expect because you stop worrying about every little weather change. Mud, wet grass, light rain, debris. The mower feels designed for actual outdoor life instead of perfect conditions only. And another thing we genuinely appreciated is the removable battery setup. That is honestly rare in this category. So long-term maintenance feels less stressful because battery replacement does not automatically turn into a complicated service situation years later. The mower uses a 15 ampere-hour lithium iron phosphate battery rated for around 2,000 charge cycles, which is important because robotic mowers constantly recharge themselves throughout the season. And lithium iron phosphate chemistry usually handles long-term cycling much better than standard lithium setups. Runtime itself can reach around 3 hours per cycle, and coverage is honestly impressive. Especially with the 10A fast charger version, the downtime between mowing sessions feels pretty short. And because the mower cuts with a full 16-inch width, it covers ground noticeably faster than smaller robotic units. So instead of spending the entire day slowly maintaining one section, this actually feels capable of handling serious lawn size. After using the Lymow One Plus, the biggest thing we noticed is that it feels built around difficult lawns instead of ideal ones. And that changes everything. Because when a mower handles rough terrain confidently, keeps traction on slopes, cuts dense grass consistently, avoids obstacles properly, and navigates complex zones without getting confused, you stop babysitting the machine all the time. And that is probably the biggest compliment we can give a robot mower. Now, of course, at around $2,800, this is still a premium mower, and the size alone means it is probably excessive for tiny, simple lawns. But if your property has rough terrain, larger sections, uneven ground, or areas where traditional robot mowers constantly struggle, then this starts making a lot more sense very quickly. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more smart home reviews and comparisons.